Could it finally be, after long last, it's a buyer's market in the Toronto real estate market? That's one of the articles we'll be covering. And then the next popular one that everyone seems to be talking about is everyone just going to move to Alberta? We're going to talk about that and kind of the population trends that's happening right now in Canada. So make sure you stay tuned to this episode. Now, if you're looking for help to navigate this market, because it is really confusing, and you'll see a little bit why when you get to the latter half of this video, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and I run and operate a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto area, on top of making wicked real estate content that's educational for you, just like this one. And the first article we're going to be covering is from the Toronto Star, where it says, "Are we in a buyer's market?" Now, the angle of this piece is great because it's talking about from one person's perspective. And like I said, boots on the ground data is different from what the data is actually showing, which will be out on Thursday, which is the market watch. And I'll talk about that later. But in this article, it's talking about a young gal who finally came back and was able to buy something in the Toronto market on the East End for $672,000. Now, you may be thinking, $672,000, what did she buy? A condo? Well, no, she bought a semi-detached in the Danforth Village. Now, I looked at the property, and I'm not going to give it away, obviously, for privacy reasons, but it actually looks like a pretty good deal. It's like a smaller semi-detached on the east side of East York, on the borderlines of Scarborough, and I think they did really well. But here's kind of the thing that you have to understand, which I'm going to kind of show you down here. Is this one person's example, meaning that it's a buyer's market because she negotiated down and the sellers had to sell? And I would say the answer is no, because it depends on who you're talking to, right? Like last week episode, I was saying how like there's some properties that are getting like 6 to 10 offers on multiple offers. We had one that had 30 offers. There was one that had 57. It really just comes down to the motivation of the seller. And there's a really big dichotomy of where the market is. So this week, I'm showing you from a buyer's side, because last week I was talking about multiple offers, but this one now looks like it's a buyer's market because the person who needs to sell, well, had to sell, right? So buying this property, and I'll show you some pictures without giving it away, you're able to buy something for discount if it's not picturesque perfect where everyone is trying to buy it, right? So the example is, this is a semi that obviously needs a little bit of work inside. You need a reno, right? It looks like there's a dishwasher that's missing. It looks like there's potentially some water that was leaking here. And then, you still got linoleum tiles. But if you have the patience and you have the capital to kind of work on this renovation, that's where you're going to find a deal, right? Because if you renovate this to kind of like a more modern standard finish, you're probably easily in like the $800,000 to $900,000. So however much your rentals cost, the spread is how much you've made, as long as you have the capital to make it happen, right? Because if you don't have the money to do renovations after your down payment and land transfer tax, then this doesn't work for you. And this is what I've been telling a lot of my clients, right? If you are able to buy something and then do the renos, and you pick the property that's been sitting on the market for a long time, where the sellers are like, oh man, I have no leverage, the market's clearly not giving me what they wanted in multiple realists, then yeah, you may wanna lowball these people and try to get something in a deal. But what I can tell you are, the really good properties, they're still selling, or the seller is just very adamant and they're not desperate to sell till they take it off the market, or they're not lowering their price. But the ones who are lowering their price, and maybe they've been on the market for like 30 to 40 days, those are the ones you target, and they did just that, and I think they did really, really well. Now, one of the things that I was going to point out over here is that this person who's the president of Right at Home is saying it's too early to call that it's a buyer's market, even though there's more price drops that could potentially happen. Now, the numbers for September haven't come out yet, but the prices look stable, but the sales are lower than what they were in August, which is strange, and I'll break that all down for you on Thursday. But what we're seeing right now is the desirable properties, like this person's saying, are still attracting multiple offers. And I said that last week. 1 in 5 properties that sold in the GTA are still selling for multiple offers and over ask price, right? So as long as you have a really good property and it's marketed correctly, you can probably sell it. But if you're marketed incorrectly, which is really bad photos, bad staging, or really the big one is bad pricing, it's not going to sell. And that's the important thing that you need to understand. Depending on where you're looking, what type of product, the motivation of the seller, you're going to hear stories on both sides probably until end of December, because there's just such a big divide on where the motivations of the buyers and the sellers are and what they're looking for. Now, if you found this content helpful, make sure you help me spread the knowledge by smashing the like button. And if you need some help to navigate its wacky real estate market, you can book a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Now, on to the second article here, which is more people are fleeing Ontario and moving to Alberta. I'm pretty sure I saw ads, or people sent me ads of Alberta saying Alberta is calling to move Ontario over. And the key factor here is obviously they're saying that like the price of a detached home in even like say Edmonton is like a third of the price of a home in Toronto, which is absolutely wild. And there's an oil boom-ish right now, so a lot of people are flocking to what's affordable, especially when you have a lot of remote work, assuming you could do remote work, or you just get a job in Alberta. It makes a lot of sense because you have a better cost of living there, right? And then they talk about how in this article that we're seeing 21,000 people move out of Ontario, and it's the largest amount we've seen ever. Now, Ontario has always been a place where everyone always lives, and kind of like the exodus from California to like say like Texas and the US, we're seeing that in Canada right now because it's just a flock to affordability because the type of work that you're able to do remotely has changed ever since the pandemic. So why would you work in a really expensive city unless you absolutely have to, right? So if that is a trend that we're going to be seeing going forward, then yeah, as long as you're a very sought after worker, then you have the leverage to go do that. But if you can't do remote work or you don't want to relocate for many reasons, then you can't take advantage of this. So this becomes kind of like a lot of people saying, oh, you know what? Everyone's going to leave Ontario. Look, I'm not going to say I'm bullish on the market or bearish on the market because of population, because population trends take forever to kind of trickle into the market and the pricing, right? Like I've always been saying, seasonal is always the short-term changes in prices. Then you got your interest rates, which is your midterm, call it 12 to 18 months. And then you got your long-term, which is like 5 to 10 years, and immigration and population trend goes in there. So 21,000 people leaving Ontario is not like, oh no, prices are going to drop 10%. That's just like a drop in the bucket. And I'm going to show you. We've got some charts here from Ben at Edge Analytics, and this is to show you how much population growth has happened in Canada. You can basically see we went from nothing, almost nothing, right, during pandemic, and we shot right up to like 700,000 people in the last quarter, which is absolutely wild. It's super high. And then you look at it, it talks about how net non-permanent residents have spiked like crazy. So this is a lot of, call it international students, and I would say a lot of Ukrainian refugees. They are all coming here, and that probably explains why there's such a pressure on rents. So the question is, where do most people land when they come to Canada? Probably Ontario or Vancouver. So before, people, if they couldn't land there, they would go to smaller cities and they come back into Ontario and the Golden Horseshoe. But now if they land here and they can't make things work here, then they're going to go somewhere else where it's more affordable, right? Which makes total sense. But is it going to be a bearish enough case for kind of Ontario real estate? I don't think so, at least not yet. But if we see these trends continue in the next year or two and we constantly see a net immigration out of Ontario, then yeah, we have a problem. So if you think that we see a little bit of population leave Ontario is the reason why prices are going to come down drastically, it'll take longer to play out. So I wouldn't use that as a metric. It always is going to come down to what you're trying to do, buy or sell, your motivation, the seller's motivation if you're buying, right? And also just the type of product you're looking at and the community that you're looking at, because all of that is going to dictate whether there's going to be a lot of interest or there's no interest. Hopefully you found this content helpful, and let me know in the comment section below whether you think the market is going to stabilize, that we're seeing in the next 3 months, or it's going to continue declining. I'd be interested to see kind of what your takes are. Anyways, if you're looking for some help to navigate this real estate market, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.